Is there a man-aid? A man-aid Boston? Is there a man-aid Boston? I'm not sure if there is. As Women Collectives Giving Circle, Women Boston supports nonprofit organizations in the greater Boston area that improve lives of underserved women and teens, which I agree with this, by the way. I think we should provide both birth control and women's needs every month to every single woman in this country. And I don't think it should be, you should just be able to go and get it. I'm all for this, actually, so I can't really hack it. I'm all for it. There's so many women in this country who don't have access to birth control and don't have access to women's needs. So I'm 100% for this. I hope they do this. I hope they do well. I wish you guys luck. So this was, there's no man-aid because men don't need birth control and they don't need, I get it now. So impact, let me see what they do. Let me see any more information on this. Cool, stay in touch. I don't know what it is, get involved. Current grantees, past grantees. Oh, I don't know what this is. Let me see what this is about, really. Why women and girls? Okay, so this is the richest country in the, yeah, we know this. I mean, Allison certainly knows this. She's going to those schools. And it's ranked one of the lowest developed nations on measurements of women's economic security, health, and well-being. This is true, by the way, that we don't provide enough access for women's birth control or their monthly needs. This means that American women bear a significant, disproportionate burden of poverty, workplace. Guys are suffering too, but this is the part I'm talking about. It's hard all over, just so you know. It's hard all over. So, it's in the United States, women without a high school diploma have 90% chance of raising children in poverty. Women who, some of these things are true, but it's sometimes I feel like it's gone just like where, sometimes it just goes a little bit where we just kind of stop forgetting about our young boys and men. And so I don't want to do that, so she's involved with something where working women are paid 80% of what men are. That's, for Allison, who is the federal district judge, she wants to be in charge. She wants to be the boss. When they did studies and asked women what they wanted to do, a majority of them, just so you know, one of my cousins is the boss of one of the biggest industries in the world, and she's the boss. Like she was the boss of everybody. She was the boss of her husband. She was the boss. So there's some women like my cousin who want to be the boss, like Allison Burroughs. But when they did a study on it, they found that most women didn't want to be the boss. And a lot of those reasons were so that they could check out if they had kids. And then also because they didn't want to be in charge. Remember, this women being in the workplace, we're less than, we're 60 years into it, 100 years into it at the most. You can listen to JP about this. He talks about it in pretty great detail. But so that's what she does here. Let's keep going down the list and see what else she does here, what other groups she's a part of. But I mean, as far as that group, Women Aid, I support that 100% if we're talking about birth control and reproductive needs, because all of us need help with education. All of us need help with being paid a fair wage. It's not just women in this country who are not being paid a fair wage. It's 90% of this country who's not being paid a fair wage. And that's going to go back to the 1937 case of West Coast Hotel versus... Is it West Coast Hotel versus the United States, which set the standard for minimum wage? Let me turn the chat on. Someone will correct my. What was that? Can someone tell me that exact case? Was it West Coast Hotel versus West Coast Hotel versus was it United States? What was the? It was West Coast Hotel versus. It set the standard for minimum wage. It's gonna bug me. It's gonna bug me. It's gonna bug me. I don't think so, dude. I mean, I don't think so. And I wish we had gotten rid of all the trolls, but we haven't. We haven't. They continue. They continue. As long as I continue to sue troll farms, I'll continue to have trolls. I just don't want to talk about them. I want Is it Parish? Thank you. West Coast Hotel versus Parish. I knew I was wrong on that. Thank you, Ace. I really appreciate that. So in 1937, in West Coast Hotel versus Parish, that set the standard for a minimum wage. And just so you guys know, we should never, ever have fought for a minimum wage. And I get this from the Professor Jack Rakove from Stanford University. I listened to all of his lectures. And his words exactly are that we should have fought for the value of the labor being imparted. So that, if you work at McDonald's on the corner, that McDonald's might make $1 million, $2 million a year, but you're still being paid minimum wage because you can just pump a ketchup thing or warm the buns up or cook a burger. But the value of the labor being imparted when working in a team creates a gigantic value. And so because of West Coast Hotel versus Parish, we fought for a minimum wage standard instead of the value of the labor being imparted. And so we screwed ourselves. But remember, we were coming, so 1937 is gonna mark the end of the Lochner era. If you don't know, Lochner, Lochner era. And it's called the Lochner era from 1897 to 1937. Is it 1937 or was it 1938? But I'm real close right there. So the Lochner era in that time period of history is where you think it's bad now. That's when the Supreme Court, the white supremacy Supreme Court, because we've had a racist Supreme Court since the very beginning. So that's when the white supremacy Supreme Court had 40 years of pure tyranny. Remember, with the 17th Amendment in 1937, I believe. No, I'm sorry, 19. It's gonna bug me. I have so much data in my head, I can't keep it all. It was 1912. So it was the 17th Amendment in 1912. So let me kind of break this down a little bit for you guys. And I'm gonna put this on a timeline and I'm gonna teach it to you in the next few months here. But I want you guys to understand something here. So she's doing Woman Aid to try to get more money for women who only make 80% of the wages of men. And I pushed back on that. And I said that, well, men don't make any money either because of West Coast Hotel versus Parish, the 1937 or 1938 case that created the minimum wage standard. So the reason why we were so happy to fight for minimum wage is because 1897 to 1937, about 40 years, was called the Lochner era. And in the Lochner era, what they did is the senators, the United States senators, they were working in collusion with big business in each of their states. So in 1912, the 17th Amendment, it was 1913 actually, just so you know, because this says 1912, but it's incorrect. The 17th Amendment was passed in 1913. So when the 17th Amendment passes, it changes that the House of Representatives will appoint senators. Because it used to be that you voted for your House of Representatives and then your House of Representatives in Alabama would then appoint the senators for Alabama. Well, what was happening in Alabama and every other state is that the senators were colluding with big business and giving all the breaks to big business. And then when the little man would fight and take his case to the court, all the way up to the Supreme Court, you get the 1905 case of New York versus Lochner. And the reason why that era is called the Lochner era is because if you read Lochner versus New York from the 1905 case, what you will find is that it is the most egregious, disgusting ruling against the people, maybe in the history. Well, I mean, you do have Dred Scott in 1857, which is going to say that black folks are property. But when you're talking about the labor and getting to that minimum wage, you're talking about Lochner versus New York, 1905. If you have not read that holding, I strongly recommend you look up 1905, Lochner versus New York. And so that time period of history from 1897 to 1937, it was 1936? Anyway, so that period of history is defined as the Lochner era because all the breaks. And so then in 1913, because it was going so poorly, the United States people passed an amendment that senators would be elected. And that broke what the Constitution said. That changed the constitutional standards to a new constitutional standard, that we would elect those senators. And so that happens in 1913. The Lochner era continues to go on until 1937, 1936, because you're going to have the 1938 case, because It's the 1938 case of Caroline Products, Carolene, Caroline Products versus the United States. And that's going to be 1938. And what that's going to say is that the courts can give a monopoly to anybody they want, including the dairy industry. And what you're going to get out of that Caroline Products case is called strict scrutiny. And they're going to take strict scrutiny away from that case. But what I took away from the case is that the federal government, when you get to the highest levels of government, they will work in collusion with the government, even though we changed the Constitution to elect senators in 1913. But the Supreme Court in Caroline Products is going to give the milk industry a monopoly. So in West Coast hotels versus Parish, that's the fight for minimum wage. And so the people were just happy to get a minimum wage. I'm not going to go into the Lochner case, but if you read the Lochner case, you'll understand why. And all this stuff is better on a timeline, so I'll put it on a timeline. I'm going to teach it all again, but I want to keep going on Allison here because I was here. I wanted to make sure that the year. See, it says 1912 here, but that's incorrect. It's 1913. So she's an investor in Mahoning Valley Scrappers. Does anybody know what that is? What is Mahoning Valley Scrappers? Does anybody know what that is? Oh, would you take a look at this? She's the class agent of Middlebury College. Oh my, what was I saying earlier? What was I saying earlier? That she's the class secretary. Allison, you're connected. Allison D. Burroughs is connected, man. She's got people. She makes a phone call and someone's got a friend over there in this part of the world and they can help her out with do this. They're all in it together. It's a big club and you ain't in it. Oh, man. So what I tell you guys, there it is. She's the class secretary. This is a $100,000 a year college. They have a $1.5 billion endowment. Allison's got some power. Allison's a pretty powerful lady. Sorry about that. So then we go down here. Trustee and board member of Agassiz Village. Government committee. Board president. Development and events committee. Man, I think I'm alpha. Man, this chick is alpha. Allison D. Burroughs is an alpha. Alpha female. She is an alpha. It's a summer camp. It's a summer camp. God bless you, sir. Thank you for it. Oh, Paul Chavez Jr. Oh my God. I'm gonna take a screenshot of that. I'm gonna put it on the community page and I wanna come back and revisit this. Hey, can you send me an email? We'll take a look at that, man. We'll take a look at that. I'm taking the screenshots. I'm gonna get back to you, man. Thank you for the super chat. Everybody, if you would pop his name into Google, but I'm gonna do a deep dive on him. Good to see you, Microsoft Teams. Oh yeah. So Microsoft Teams said that the war on drugs had zero effect on drug trafficking. Actually, if you read the 1994 Mullen Commission, and if you take a look at the 1972 Knapp Commission, both of those are available on my website for free. You can download those. And what Microsoft Teams just said was that the war on drugs had zero to do with trafficking. When you read those two commissions, you know what you find out is that the FBI and the cops were the biggest drug traffickers in the world, not just in America, in the entire world. The cops, the FBI, the DEA have been running drugs all around the entire world. They are the biggest drug runners. They are the biggest drug dealers. The DEA is the biggest drug dealing pimped out organization in the entire world. The police are running the drugs. You can read that in the Knapp Commission of 72. You can read that in the Mullen Commission of 1994, which are available on my website for free. What's going on, my friend? How are you? I'm on a live. I got 250 people in here, so how you doing? No, it's okay. Love you guys. I was just spouting off some data that you sent me. So let me get back to it. Jump in the live and say hello and I'll point you out, okay? Love you guys. Thanks for calling me. Bye. So, but now hold on a minute. I don't want to get sidetracked here. Remember, we're focusing on what Allison does because I have the right to look up who is the one that I feel is being very unfair and unjust because I said and I continue to say she's a CopSucker. So, let's take a look at this. Aziz Village Summer Camp. Okay, there it is.